friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And I'm here today to show you how I'm making my newest batch of infused oil to use in my muscle and joint rub. So I don't think I've ever actually done a separate video just on this, but other than the one I did years ago on the red pepper oil, but I've been adding to it as I go. And part of the reason why I'm starting to add more herbs is so that I can cut back on the dependency of the essential oils going in there, especially once I found out by accident that the infused oil on its own is actually pretty effective. So my goal is with this one is to either cut out all the essential oils that I add in later, or at least reduce them down quite a bit. So if you're interested in that, by the way, the full recipe where I show all the different essential oils and give you some other ideas of oils that you can add to it, I'll link to that video down below. But this part is about the actual oil infusion to begin with. And so I'm going to start off with the same 3 basic herbs that I've used in my previous batch, but I'm going to be adding some new ones. And also, once I get this mixed up, I'm going to give you some ideas of other herbs you can consider if any of these are not going to be a good option for you or you don't have access to them. There's some other ideas you can consider. So typically when I'm infusing an oil or doing any kind of infusion, an extract, I like to fill my herbs up to about halfway and then add my oils. And I don't have any kind of set recipe as far as measurements and weights when I'm doing this, but one of the most important things when it comes to oil infusions is that your herbs are dry rather than fresh. Now you can make tinctures using fresh herbs and that's fine, but with oils in particular, it's very important that they're dried. So all the herbs I'm using are dried. Some of these are homegrown, some of them I've had to buy because I can't or do not grow them yet. So the 3 main herbs are comfrey and arnica, and the reason these 2 is they're both very good at helping to heal tears, sprains, and even breaks and bruises. And that's arnica flowers, and here this is comfrey leaves, but you can use comfrey root as well. And then the red pepper flakes, this is actually what I used to use as my base to begin with all by itself, because anything that's hot like that, that's going to warm the area, is also going to help speed up healing because it helps increase blood flow. And so that's why I like to use the red pepper flakes. Now, so I'm going to start with those and get those added in. So I'm going to have to just kind of add things a little bit at a time and then see how it goes. Typically when I'm putting in the comfrey, I forgot my canning funnel. There, less mess with the canning funnel, at least a little bit less for me. So anyway, I'll start off with, I'll do 3 big spoonfuls. Again, my goal is to try to get this filled halfway up full of herbs. And I always, with the comfrey and arnica, stick with equal amounts, and actually the red pepper flakes as well, or close to equal amounts. I'm just going to leave those lids off because I know I'll need to come back to it. So red pepper flakes, let's go ahead and put 3 tablespoons of that in. And then I'm going to add my new herbs, and then I'll most likely be coming back and adding in more of each of these. Okay, so one of the new ones is rosemary, which is excellent as well for any kind of joint or muscle rub. You can use it as an essential oil, or you can use it as an infused oil to make a good muscle rub. I'm going to go ahead, since I have lots of home-dried rosemary, I'm going to go ahead and add 3 tablespoons of that too. And then 3 tablespoons of whole cloves. You can use ground of any of this, but I always find to use it in a form that's easier to strain out when it comes right down to it. And then some peppermint. Peppermint from the garden here. This is the jar I actually keep handy for tea. Now looking at this, I'm not far from being halfway full there. So I'm going to stir this up a little bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and add at least another big spoonful of the comfrey, the arnica, and the red pepper flakes. And see where that gets me. Okay, let's go ahead and get this tamper and kind of push it down. I don't have to pack it in tight. Looks like I have room for plenty more. So I'm going to do another spoonful. Again, your ratios are totally up to you. I'm just showing you what I'm doing. Typically try to keep them, especially for the main herbs, in about approximately equal parts. And I think that's going to do it for that. And I think I'm going to go ahead and add some more peppermint to that. I'm going to do another spoonful of that. Okay, so that is a little better than halfway. I probably shouldn't have added that other spoonful of peppermint, but whatever. Now, the next thing to do is to start adding the oil. Now, the oil you use is entirely up to you. You do want a good oil. Olive oil is a great option that people like to turn to. The reason I don't typically use that is just out of concern. Anything I'm going to leave in a warmer area. I try to avoid olive oil, especially extra virgin olive oil, because it's going to be more apt to go rancid. And since I like to do my oil infusions in a warm, not hot, but warm area in the living room, kind of close to the wood stove, then I want to go for an oil that has a longer shelf life, especially when exposed to heat. So I prefer to use avocado oil in this case, or any other oil that's a good healthy oil that can handle sitting in a warm area for a long period of time without going rancid. So this is why avocado oil is always my first choice. And this is the same oil I use when I do, well, any oil infusion, whether it be for the healing salve mix or just what I use for my skin cream. So you can see I poured that in there, and then you're going to need to stir that in, because that oil's got to work down through all of those herbs, and the herbs will start soaking up the oil as well. Then I'm going to pour in more. So as you can see, it's not going to be a quart of oil by the time it's all done. You're probably only going to get about a pint of oil out of here, maybe a little bit more. But I want to make this good and strong, again, because part of my goal is to reduce the use of essential oils in there, just because it's cheaper this way. And I did find that a lot of times simply infusing oils when you're talking about something like this can be quite effective. You don't have to go for an essential oil. And for those who are kind of confused, who don't understand, there is a distinct difference between infused oils and essential oils. I did do a video on that this last summer that I'll link to down below if you'd like to learn more about that. And look, I can add more oil. I want to get that really, really full. And I love the way this looks with all those colors in there. I'll go ahead and hold this up so you can see that here, but I'll also be taking a picture because sometimes pictures do a little bit better job than video. And then this is a used lid, and so it's got a little bit of writing that didn't wash off when I was threw it in the sink. And so what I always do is I keep a bottle of rubbing alcohol. You just spray bottle and spray it and wipe it off. You can also use a dry erase marker, color it and wipe it off. There's various ways you can get it off. If you're reusing your metal lids like I do, I don't recommend scrubbing it off, because what that does is it makes basically micro abrasions in the metal lid, thus making it harder and harder each time to get the permanent ink off. So that's why I go with the rubbing alcohol and a soft cloth to wipe it off with. And then I'm going to mark on there what it is. So this is the muscle and joint rub, and then put the date, because the next step is to let it sit for at least 2 months so that it can really infuse well. And again, I like to go for warm but not hot area, because I don't want too much heat. Like some people will put these things in the sun, but my concern with straight sunlight is the UV rays could degrade the benefits in there, and an intense amount of heat can also degrade the benefits. So I like looking at something that just keeping it warm and going for a longer infusion. And then when it's all done, I'll simply strain it out, and I'm going to try using it directly without adding any of the essential oils, and then see how that works for me. And if it's doesn't feel quite strong enough, and whatever, be it the cloves, the peppermint, or whatever, then I can add some essential oil of cloves, peppermint, eucalyptus, and more as I feel led. Now, I was promised I was going to read off a few more herbs that you could use instead or along with if you prefer. And that would be calendula, nutmeg, lavender, ginger, St. John's wort, and here's one I had never heard of called lobella. I think that's how you pronounce it. So I think it's the root you use. So if you have access to that, apparently that's a really, really good one for getting in there and helping to heal the tissues, the muscle, the cartilage, the ligaments, and so on. So there's a few more options you can consider when you're infusing your oil for your joint and muscle rub. And then another thing I wanted to say is there's certain oils you can use by themselves, and black seed oil is a great one. It's very warming and it gets deep into the tissue, and it's really great as a joint and muscle rub by itself. So anyway, please share with us down below what are your favorite herbs or essential oils and so on to use to help heal or bring relief to sore muscles, joints, and more. And thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.